So again, let's go into why are you in this business? Is it just a business or is there a passion here?
It's a passion. It's a passion because we want to make a sound business, but it's a long game to make it a sound business.
And tell me a little bit about Spicy. You know, what is it? Where did it come from?
Basically, it's a platform around documentaries and reports. We wanted to create a difference in France because there's a lot of debate around the news. We wanted to target a young audience who is looking for specific content. That's why we produced original content. And we moved from being a direct-to-consumer to, let's say, B2B2C through a platform from a big operator in France called Orange.
And Jay, so you're based in Taiwan, and tell us about the company that you founded and what you came in and why you're in this business, which is the most important part. Platform secondary, why you're here first.
Okay, so it's a little bit like Alexandre, it's a combination of business and passion, but just, I think a lot of people here probably don't know what Gagaoolala is, so let me just sum it up in a word. We are Asia's first and largest LGBT movie streaming service, currently servicing 21 countries in Southeast Asia and South Asia with over 1,000 films, around 300,000 members. Portico Media itself is 15 years old. And so for the first iteration of the company, we're focused on content aggregation and distribution. So we rep a lot of channels in Taiwan, like NBC, Comcast, Viacom, A&E, Blue Ant. And back in 2013, 2014, we've been doing this for about 10 years, and I was realizing that there was kind of like a ceiling in terms of what we might be able to do with our channel partners in terms of getting more revenues for them, or ad sales, or actually doing localized versions of these channels. And being based in Taiwan, I also realized that in a borderless digital world, we are an island, but we have creative content that we might be able to aggregate or create and distribute around the region. And third, being an out and gay man working in media, where I know there's so many LGBT people working in industry, as well as the LGBT community around the world. If you add all the LGBT community people together, I think it would be the fourth largest economy in the world, after the US, after China, and after Japan. And so I realized that this was an opportunity for me to do something that's very impactful for me as a person, but also potentially something that could be quite innovative and thriving in terms of a new service that's OTT, crossing borders, crossing languages, aggregating content from around the world.
So now, do people understand the four mechanisms of monetizing digital content in the space? There's iVOD and TVOD, which is transactional rental. There's EST, electronic sell-through, where you actually own it like a DVD. There's SVOD, subscription video on demand, where you pay a fee monthly. Or there's AVOD or FVOD, which is free on demand, where there are ads embedded in there, and there's a cost per thousand views that is shared between the platforms and the licensors. So how is your platform, Spicy, monetized at the moment, and have you changed over the years?
We began with traditional SVOD, trying to reach the consumers directly. Then we realized that even if our content was great, we needed a lot of money to market and to promote that content. So we pivoted to distribution through an operator. And so it made a huge difference because we could now focus on the content and the development of the community around the brand.
And are you a streaming is an anomaly world. Streaming is, there's no definition to what streaming is. Streamingism is just a mechanism of delivery of content. Are you a subscription-based? Are you an ad-supported base? Do you sell? Do you rent your programs?
For the most part right now, we are SVOD, a monthly subscription. But I kind of want to echo what Alexandre was saying a little bit about how difficult it is to market content when it's only sitting on your platform. So instead of just building a platform, what we're doing back 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before the launch of Gagaoolala, was to actually build an ecosystem, build a hub. So other than just a OTT distribution platform, we also created two LGBT news and lifestyle publishing websites. called Gagatai and Lalatai. So Gaga is a word for gays in Chinese, and Lala is a term for lesbians in Chinese. And so they're now like very popular websites that the LGBT community go to for their news and information and events. And we knew that it was necessary to build this kind of like self-media, own media, so that we wouldn't need to rely so much on ad spending on social media or promotions or outdoor stuff, which was catering to like a sort of mass audience, where we need to cater very niche to audience that we are addressing. So with these two websites built and the sort of like distribution platform built, earlier this year we also launched our production arm, which is called Goal Studios. And so what we're trying to do is not just build a platform, because just I think someone earlier mentioned that there are over 200 OTTs in the US, and in China there's 30 something. There's so many OTTs out there. So how do you get discovered? How do you get stand out? Was one of the key issues that we thought about before the full launch of our ecosystem and our hub.
It's exactly what happened to us in France around the community of aspiring documentarists, people who had an idea or are journalists and they want to focus on one subject. So we build a special part of Spicy called Spicers, so they can propose a subject, the community is voting for the subject, and then we have a crowdfunding system where people can also invest in the content. So at the end of the day, it's a great marketing tool, but it's also a great way to create space where people can express themselves. And this is free. So they can see what's happening, and then if they want to go into the community of the people who are subscribers, then they go to the next level. So it's a freedom for the community, and then if you want to be part of the, let's say, the subscribers, you have to pay for.
So this, in essence, is your way to seed. So do people in the audience seed their productions? Seeding meaning, you know how you put something in the ground, a seed, and you water it and you make it grow and rise? You're seeding into the marketplace. So how do you get the brand out there so that somebody may stumble upon it and see it, so you're actually seeing and making it grow better for the consumer here? So I'm assuming that this is part of your initiative to seed. So you're in 21 territories right now. And with the app probably growing, that'll be more seeding the brand out there for everybody.
Actually, Mitch, I forgot to fully answer your previous question. So we are a SVOD service, but there's a free section that doesn't have ads right now, but next year we're going to place ads that will direct the traffic or people who click on the ad to our e-commerce platform. So it's kind of like additional business that we're building for 2020.
And do you also utilize YouTube as possible scenarios for seeding and promoting? Not so much in the monetization, but more getting the word out with their billion viewers out there. It is a great place to get the brand awareness as well, and to tag and push.
We use more Facebook and Twitter because we focus on information and news, and so we have built also a community with Facebook. And finally, what we do is also we license the content out of France because our base is in France. So licensing the content is a great way to attract new producers or co-producers internationally, because the difficulty with this business model is to fund the original content. So licensing is a way to protect our identity, but we have to license internationally.
Okay, so in terms of seeding, I think I can share kind of like our online strategy and our offline strategy. So it's not just YouTube. I mean, we really have to be everywhere.
Just one of the opportunities.
Yeah. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything where and anywhere where we can post stuff about ourselves. That's when we do it ourselves. But also we realized it was very important to find the KOL, key opinion leaders or influencers in the regions where we were operating, who, whether they're filmmakers or actors or just online celebrities, to get them to be involved. So we can do barters with them, whereby they can promote our films, and then we can write about them on Gagatai or Lalatai, which will get them more followers, which is at the end of the day what a lot of influencers want. And also we can invite some of the influencers to come to some of our short-form original content that we create. And when we roll out, then they are more than happy to share it on their various social media platforms, which will then drive more traffic and subscriptions to our websites, especially people who are hardcore fans of these influencers. And in terms of offline, there are LGBT film festivals all throughout the world, 300-400 of them. And also there are prides all over the world. I mean, in Taiwan, last October, we just celebrated our 17th Taipei Pride. We had a turnout of about 270,000 people. And so we use these offline occasions to promote. We had floats, we had booths, we had many sort of like screening parties, initiatives. Earlier in June and July, I was in Mumbai and Bangkok in association with the festivals that they were doing. So instead of doing ourselves, we do a lot of tie-ups with the sort of key anchor LGBT events or community leaders in countries where we're currently operating.
We did also partnerships with traditional television, like information channels, because they don't have the time or the money to invest in long documentaries. So they.
And I don't know if we got into it, but you specialize in documentaries themselves.
Yeah, or reports.
For the most part,
for the most part, investigation. And the good thing with that partnerships is it's exposing our content. It's also creating a lot of, let's say, positive noise around what we do. For example, we produced a very provocative documentary about what's happening in Syria or around the elections in the US. Then having a well-known information channel debating around your content with your own journalist or your producer is creating a lot of buzz. And people then subscribe because they've heard about it, they listen to a debate, they only have a small part of the content, but it's the best marketing we can have at the end of the day. It's even better than building traditional marketing, buying space, because this is an authoritative voice saying this is a great content and we support it.
So when a content creator or a distributor or an aggregator come to you with products, are there particulars you're looking for? Are there particular ways they actually are supposed to bring you content, not just, hey, I got this title, take a look at it. You know, how do you work in general in the back end to actually fill your vision?
So we're a little bit like Hoi Choi or Hongkan. We're just about 2 to 3 years old. And so initially when we launched the platform, it was just to get as much content as possible to have that quantity. And then to use sort of like the big data and to use the feedback from our users to figure out what it is that they are really interested in. And then we have our curator and we have our programmers then seek deeper for those pockets of content that could be interesting. And we look at film festival guides, whether they're mainstream from Berlin to Cannes to the LGBT film festivals. And on our Goal Studios, actually, we have a section whereby people can submit content to us. And given that we are sort of like a very niche, but also a very singular service that is catering to this community, we get a lot of submissions from student graduation projects to shorts from around the world. I mean, I think a lot of people here know you go to a film festival, there are of course features, but there are a lot of shorts that are created into panels that after the film festival is finished, doesn't go anywhere. But those shorts are very, very valuable to us because when we launch our platform, we can use these shorts to test the market and to test the reception of this story or this actor or of this creator. And if it does well, then we initiate a conversation with that creator to say, hey, your short did well. Would you be interested in doing something a little bit more long form or maybe more shorts with us? And that's how we build relationships with so many different creators who are submitting content to us.
I think conversational marketing is key to this type of content because actually you need to engage with people who are passionate. So generally they hear about something and then they propose you. At the beginning we didn't plan on having spicers, the community for our viewers, but they asked us they asked for content. We didn't know if it was good or bad to launch this new series. That's why we asked them. And then we slowly built a conversation with our community, and this community is the number one supporters, because they are the one telling around them something is happening, something is good. And it helped us a lot when we engaged with traditional operators, because this is precisely the thing they can't do. When you're a big company doing a lot of marketing, you don't have the time or the teams to focus on the small niche.
You're their pivot. Absolutely.
And we pivoted, but this community helped us a lot. We could show that, we have this amount of followers on Facebook, we have so many people on Twitter, and then we have people who are specifically attached to this content. So it was a marketing tool also for the operator, and it helped us actually to reinvent the model.
Maybe I should define a little bit of the community, because initially when we launched this platform, we thought, okay, it's just dedicated for the LGBT community. But in the past years, we've learned that there actually, definitely the LGBT community is a key component of our audience base. But actually, there's a lot of young, maybe office ladies, sort of like female workers that are a significant portion of our content as well. Just like RuPaul's Drag Race in the US, actually. I don't know if people here know RuPaul's Drag Race in the US, but it's on VH1, and actually the dominant audience base for that show of many drag queens who do lip sync battles is actually like teenage girls and their mothers. And we know this because if you go to the RuPaul convention in New York and LA, you see 40,000, like raging teenage girls chasing after their favorite drag queens to get signatures. And so for us here in Asia, we also have this sort of audience base. A lot of women who want to see sort of, it's the acronym for it is called BL, Boy Love, and actually it's a thriving component of content in Thailand and also in Japan, and increasingly more in Taiwan. And the fourth segment is because Taiwan for the last 3 years was in a sort of cultural, political, social struggle for marriage equality, which passed in May. So a lot of people use our videos and shared it to their parents or classmates or people who are maybe anti-gay, for them to hopefully have sort of like second thoughts about their preconceptions and stereotypes of the LGBT community. And that segment of the population we see from back data is still there.
So you touched on film festivals, and that to me is one of those subjects that really no one looks at. My company, I'm a digital distributor, so I work and I live in the world of long tail. Are people familiar with what long tail is? A title that is not in a release, it's not an original, it's been out for years, but there's a market for it, and it's the back end of the distribution side, but it's a consistent monetization, consistent. So, are you interested, are you looking at the film festival world, on all of those film festival darlings that came up and then vanished somewhere, and have never seen the light of day on a platform anywhere from markets all around the world? And I've asked that question many times, where are they? Who has the rights? When are they coming out? They're great movies and shows, and they're just nowhere.
We are interested in, but we are curating them. What we let's say the quality is the most important aspect of what we do. So we are kind of guaranteeing to our audience that we are selecting the best, or according to our values, the most interesting. The difficulty when you have to go to YouTube and engage into the search engine to find what you want, you're never sure about the quality of what it is. Then you have a team, we have a curation team, and we explain what. And even in our community, we always engage in debates. Why did we choose that specific subject? And then we have also a follow-up. So there's before, during the broadcast or the screening, and then you have what's happening after. So if you want to really have a real value, the curation is not enough. You need to have this conversation. And then this is where making a big difference. Even on YouTube, you don't have the same type of conversation between people who respect themselves. You may have very strong points of views, but not a discussion.
Festivals is very important to us.
And you mentioned it earlier about the shorts, which is significant to the business.
Right, and I started Gagaoolala. Before starting Gagaoolala, I created the Taiwan International Queer Film Festival, kind of as a litmus test to see how this content would do, and also because I didn't really have bandwidth to dive into the full OTT. And I realized that even though film festival is very great, but you spend so much time. You're like choosing films, watching films, licensing films, you're subtitling films, you're encoding films, or into DCP, you're promoting films, and then for maybe 10 days out of the year, you're marketing it in a film festival in a certain city with 3 or 4 screenings. And it could be all sold out, and that's maybe a total of, 1,000 people. And so, and everybody else who has been sort of like, who noticed the film through the marketing efforts or through sort of like the various promotions are not able to see it. So, very, very important. So we go there, we do social listening to see what kind of films is getting the buzz, what kind of films win the awards, and then of course we watch it ourselves. to determine whether that's something we want to take on. I mean, even though it's a niche content, but there's still a lot of content out there. So we don't have a deep pocket to acquire everything, nor do we want to, because just there's always the 80-20 rule, right? And also with the film festivals within Asia, the LGBT film festivals, we realized that with the data that we're getting back from our audience, people actually wanted to see stories featuring Asian characters and Asian storylines, even if it's not big budget, or even if it didn't win the Queer Can or the Teddy Award, but they wanted to see and hear languages and storylines and locations that they can relate to. So we went even deeper to working with the film festivals, especially the queer ones, as well as the mainstream ones, to really find that content that is really kind of hidden and discovered, and then bring it onto a platform and market it, write about it, and promote it as much as we can.
It's exactly the same phenomenon. We are also using the festival to promote our own content, to propose our documentaries to the many documentary festivals around the world. Is evaluated by our subscribers, is evaluated by the operators, because they can push, this content has been awarded this and this everywhere in the world, and it's also great for the people working with us, because the value we put in selecting them and pushing them and promoting them also abroad is fantastic. For a lot of small production companies, or people who are fighting for one subject for years, suddenly being treated like that is not only an honor, but it's also the real value they get out of the deal. We cannot pay a lot of money, but the complete service and relation we are building around them is generally a step for other productions, because then they can go to traditional broadcasters or big platforms and say, you see, we have done things there, so we are professional. And it happened that we have also pushed subjects that were completely taboo, like the manipulation in the US election. And we were the first to push in France and in Europe the Cambridge Analytica story through a journalist of The Guardian, very famous now, called Carol Calderwader. And I met her 6 months ago. She told me we were the first television in the world to talk about me. And even on the BBC, they didn't interview her, because at the time they thought that this story was not real. And now it's an evidence. And this film traveled all around the world. It was broadcasted because we are licensing it. So it was broadcasted on, in Chile, in Asia, and even it was also broadcasted in France on the traditional television. And it broke many records. So it is showing that if you have a niche that you treated well, you are probably a gate for the rest of the production system, or even for broadcasters who are not taking risks anymore. So the festival are the great moment where you can reveal new things.
Can I just add to that just a little bit? Yes, so we find content to bring from festivals into the platform, but we also, just exactly like Alexandre said, use the festivals as a way to promote our originals. And so, like some of the shorts or features that we've done, have traveled to 20, 30, 40 film festivals, and that's a lot of free publicity that money really can't buy. And last weekend, we just had our Golden Horse Awards, and our co-production film, The Teacher, actually won the Best Actress. And it's going on a theatrical release this Friday in Taipei, and so that's all really good buzz that only like a film festival can generate for content that we are creating.
Yeah, it happened to us to theatrical release and also a distribution on Amazon in the US for subjects. A producer is seeing it in the festival, he's acquiring the rights, and then he's pushing it. We had a documentary called Trumping Democracy about the Trump election. It was released in New York and in LA, and you had a lot of, let's say, information that were hidden to the American public, actually, that were revealed for many people who are passionate about the subject.
So now, how many creators here have a catalog of content out there that is not anywhere? Do we have anybody? Because I'm always meeting filmmakers that are doing a new production, an original, but they also have 5, 6, 10, 12 productions that have been distributed for years, and now they're just sitting there. Digital is the opportunity to remonetize all that and these producers forget about it because everyone moves forward. You can't move forward without remembering the past, and the past is very relevant. So that's what I mean with the film festival side. And there's the new product, which is great, but there were darlings in 2005, darlings in 99, and 1989, and it's like, those are the ones, that's the gold that no one's thinking of. And if people can figure out how to mine that and monetize it within the platforms, it helps the producers today finance the productions of tomorrow. And that's the relevance. It's like, it's your calling card. So I would assume, just from speaking with the gentleman, that those are very important for those key titles that would fit your missions. So, last thing I wanted to ask was, where do you see everything going in the next 2 to 3 years? You can't look 5 years out, no one can. But in 2 to 3 years, technology-wise, expansion-wise, where do you see the industry, but more, where are you going as well with your visions?
I think the IP is key to this development, so we need to push more for original content, and the relation with the creators is essential if we want to survive in that world. So at the moment we are more of a production company with a distribution system, a direct one and another one managed by an operator. And at the end of the day, ultimately, for the people who are following us, we are a brand and we are a community. A community which happens to be a producer who is distributed for different channels. But at the end of the day, what they really want to be is part of a community of people who are fighting for a certain type of information, news, and who are looking for a place where they can express themselves. And if we 2 or 3 years are there, we will have succeeded.
I think there's 3 things. One is testing new business models. Like I mentioned earlier, we're combining e-commerce with our ad-supported free content right now, and to see whether that could be an additional sort of revenue stream that could boost our overall revenue. And 2, I think it's partnerships. So currently we're in 21 countries, but we're rolling global in 2020, sometime in first quarter, second quarter. And just I mentioned earlier, we need a lot of partners, whether it's content partners, marketing partners, broadcast partners, creative partners. So we are actively doing that. We probably will have one person who will go all around the world to attend the various LGBT film festivals and prides and just create fresh content, as well as bridge partners. And the other one, similar to what Alexandre said, is content. So earlier this year, we launched our Goal Studios. For example, last month we just had our first web series that was shot here in Singapore. And I mentioned earlier The Teacher, which we're releasing in Taiwan this week. We just finished our first Thai BL film that we're launching theatrically in Thailand and Taiwan simultaneously on April 10th. And so we're doing a lot of these collaborations with filmmakers and production companies, including with broadcasters around this region, so that we can, 1, minimize the costs of our productions, and 2, find innovative, creative ways to do windowing and also marketing.
We didn't discuss windowing, that's a whole different animal. So we're just about out of time for this. The one thing that I want to portray with the past 2 platforms, in the interviews, was there's so much opportunity out there. There's so many platforms in the space. The Asian marketplace is so early in its development of what the opportunities are that patience. Have patience, make good product, and be smart about how you do your licensing deals. Look at the details of what you're granting and licensing and monetize as much as you can, and don't just give the rights away to anybody because they ask you. But here are 2 examples of niches. And my name is Mitch, so I like niche. And so that's why you look at that. So I want to thank you, gentlemen. This was very informative and great, and I thank you, audience.